Come here. I'm gonna let you in on the number one secret to building wealth. You ready for it? Welcome to Live to Learn USA. We're here. If you're new to the channel, we talk everything personal finance and personal development to help you reach the next level of your life. So my number one rule for building wealth is making sure that you get into a house or any sort of real estate as quickly as possible, and making sure your all-in expenses for that house are the same or less than the amount of money you'd be spending if you were renting. Next, I want to walk through a quick example and really teach how this strategy will help you build immense amounts of wealth, and even repeating this process, how it can even drive more wealth in your life. So let's get started. So let's say you were looking in your area and a place that suited your needs for rent, the cheapest one that you could find was around $2,000 per month. So with this rule, what does that mean? That means your goal should be to find a house where your monthly expenses are under or equal to $2,000 a month. And what's included in that monthly expenses bucket? So that's going to be your mortgage, that's going to be an HOA if you have one, that's going to be your insurance, your taxes, maybe for maintenance, maybe $100 per month. And all of these main buckets of expenses, that's what you're summing together. And what you'll find, it's kind of interestingly enough, let's say you don't have an HOA for this particular house, but you're able to procure a house around $260K to be at or below $2,000, including all of your other miscellaneous things that come up. And that should give you some excitement, because in a lot of areas, if you look hard enough, you'll be able to find something at that price point or lower that fits your needs. So you'll be able to actually grab this. So what is it going to take to actually secure this property? I would recommend putting 5% down, because that minimizes your capital sunk into the house and leaves you with more money to buy more real estate or put in the stock market or whatever you want. So using that, let's say you put a 5% down, 5, 10, around $15,000 it would take roughly, maybe a little bit more with closing costs, to close on this house. So your goal should be to get that as quickly as possible, whether it's living at home with your parents, finding a cheap place to split rent until you can build that up. That's your goal, because that's going to enable you to build massive amounts of wealth. How does buying a house get me wealth? So let's look at the comparative. So if you were to invest this into an IRA, how much money after 30 years would you have? Let's assume an 8% interest rate. So after 30 years, you'd be roughly around 140K. Not so bad. But let's see what that would turn into after 30 years of investing in this house. So you can't really assume or take credit for the monthly expenses, right? Because it's going to be the same amount of money you're throwing out the garbage anyway. So at the end of the 30 years, what happens? You have this home paid outright. There's no more mortgage. So you, in theory, have 260K worth of asset. And even better yet, right, you already crushed your IRA. Real estate, let's assume a 3% appreciation. Real estate on average in America is around 4 to 4.5% appreciation every single year. So after 30 years at a 3% appreciation, you're literally at over a $600,000 property. Inflation is crazy, it compounds just like everything else. But your nest egg for this one house alone will be somewhere between 260 to 600. And that blows your IRA investment out of the water just by finding a property, and you kept your monthly expense the same, and you have tremendous amounts of wealth because of it. So how do you increase this, right? That's a great attractive number. How do you rinse and repeat? So when you close on this house, what you can do is you've made a promise to the bank that you're going to live there for 12 months. And after 12 months, you can literally rinse and repeat, where the bank's going to now allow you to put 5% down. You find another property in the area that's around $260,000, and then you get another property. And what happens with this house? You rent it out. Oh, how am I going to cover the rent? Am I going to be able to be cash flow positive? Am I going to be able to cover my monthly expenses? Of course you are, because we calculated the rent in the area that was on a comparable basis. So you'll be able to get at least $2,000, because you're going to have a house to rent versus an apartment. You could usually get a little bit more of a premium for the house. So you're going to get cash flow. Someone else is going to be paying this off. And in 3 or 4 years' time, you could have 3 to 4 properties, and you just tripled this if you have 2 houses, or multiply by 3 if you did it for 3 years. And you have multiple $1 million, $2-3 million minimum by just deploying this strategy when you're young and when you're trying to build wealth as quickly as possible. And then as your real estate's building, you're investing in the stock market, IRAs, Roth IRAs, finding businesses, developing passive income. That is your goal. And it all starts with getting your fundamentals in order, because if you do nothing else, real estate and setting this up is the quickest way to build wealth. And we showed it here, the massive difference that you're able to generate for yourself. So hopefully you got excited about this and see the actual impacts to your net worth and your ability to really propel yourself forward light years ahead of where you thought you could be by just investing in stocks. So hopefully you got some value out of this video. If you did, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Feel free to drop a comment on your thoughts, and subscribe to stay up to date with my latest content. If you like this kind of stuff, I'm definitely going to keep at it. So thanks for listening to Live to Learn. Stay tuned for the next one.